Hi guys, and welcome to AirAbility, your regular dose of lead therapy. And today it's another one of my reviews for Optics Warehouse, and I will be looking at the fantastic Delta Stryker 5 to 50 by 56 Target Ultra ED scope. And I must admit, from the moment I opened the box, I fell in love. Let's see if you fall in love as well, and we'll take the walk around. What a beautiful scope. And when I'm reviewing this scope today, I won't have to say things like the glass is high quality for its class, or that the turrets are good for its price point. When you get the scopes of this class, they're just either good or they're not. You measure them against other scopes in their field. You don't have to qualify the statement by explaining what price bracket the scope comes from. This scope retails at about £1,600–1,700, and in my opinion it's worth every penny. So let's see what we get for our money then. This beautiful ED glass objective lens is 56mm, and it sucks in all the light. With it being 56mm and not any larger, it gives you a lot more mounting options, which I really appreciated. It means I could get away with medium mounts on this rifle and still have adequate clearance above the barrel from the scope. Now, that might not be to everybody's choosing, but it gives you options, and options are what count. Now, we move further back down the scope into the 34mm tube, and the whole scope is finished in a nice satin black, which is obviously going to be very durable. For me, one of the biggest plus points about this scope, as well as the ED glass, is these turrets. They've clearly had a lot of R&D behind them. There's a lot of thought gone into them, and I think that they work beautifully. And we'll go and have a chat now about why I think they're so good. Well, they're big, but they're not too big. They're not oversized for no apparent reason. They're very malleable. They've got quite deep, grooves in the knurled effect on the top of the rings, so you can adjust them. Each turret pulls out to unlock and pushes back in to lock. So both turrets, windage and elevation, locks. You've also got these big bright numbers to let you know where you're at when you're doing your alterations. Then we've got this very innovative post design where you can see how far you are up through the elevation and windage scale by just looking at the top here. It's in the middle. The top of this post, we'll call it, has a flat area that you can put your bubble level on when you're leveling the scope. This is one of my tiniest criticisms about the scope. I would have liked to have seen a slightly bigger flat on the top so I could balance my bubble level easier. But there again, that's what the plumb line method is for, isn't it, when you're leveling your scope up. Now, as we move to the side here, we have an illuminated reticle, and it's got multi-levels ranging from barely perceivable all the way through to bright and bold. And at each level, only the very centre dot, target dot in the scope illuminates. It is clear, it doesn't bleed, and it's very useful. And with all those levels of illumination, there's one there to suit every person and every occasion. Now, moving on to the side parallax focus. Yes, for all you tin chicken shooters out there, you can repeatedly range find using this parallax focus on the side. I had quite an interesting afternoon where I was comparing results with my laser rangefinder in this scope to see if I could repeat the measurements. And yes, I could. It's opened my eyes because I don't usually use this feature, but I thought I would educate myself. There is also an elevation stop on this turret if you care to set it. So again, there's something for everybody with this scope. I must say, the feel of these turrets is fantastic. There's a deep thud when you move to each click as you move through the elevation and windage adjustment. You can feel exactly where you are, and there is a loud audible click when you unlock the turret and adjust. Can you feel how deep it is? It feels absolutely lovely when you do it. Now, moving further back the 34mm tube, we have the magnification ring here, and it, as I've said before, it adjusts everywhere from 5 up to 50. And what I like to see is they actually included a little lever that you screw in the box, which means you don't have to add on a big bulky third-party lever, and it really makes things a lot easier. And it's knurled in the same way as the turret. Nice, deep, easy to grip if you choose not to use the lever. What I will say is, all the way through the magnification spectrum, the scope is beautifully clear. It doesn't max out towards the end. I really enjoyed that fact, and basically I've just been shooting this scope on 50 max with no bother whatsoever. Now, moving back down the eyepiece, as ever, right at the end, we have an eyepiece that you can focus to suit your eye, so you can clearly see the reticle. At this point in the reviews, I usually look at whether the scopes will track. And here you go, this is my attempt. The conditions were nearly perfect, and as you can see, the scope absolutely tracked perfectly. Something I forgot to say earlier was that the scope will parallax all the way down to 10 meters and up to infinity and possibly beyond. Now here we go for the tracking test. The first line I shoot one shot when the scope has been already sighted in. The second line, moving across to the right, I do 15 clicks up and 15 clicks back down and fire. And then in the next line I do 15 clicks down and 15 clicks back up and fire. And then I do the same with left and right. I repeat this another 4 times to make sure there's no progressive issues with the tracking. And as you can see here, the tracking on this scope was absolutely perfect. Well, I thought I'd take just a moment to share a little video of me in my happy place with my beloved 9015 and the Delta Stryker on top. I put in many happy hours of practice here in the shed. Obviously, the scope will bench with tracking like that, beautiful clear glass and a reticle to die for. This scope absolutely will bench, and I loved it. My highest score over the last week and a half whilst I've been using this scope was 250 23x, but I must put a caveat on that and explain that that was in my sheltered home range and not really representative to out there in the field. Nevertheless, absolutely beautiful to use. The positives of this scope are how beautiful it's made, the clarity of the glass, those wonderful turrets that have been well thought about and very usable. The whole thing comes together in a compact package that is an absolute delight to use. But as ever, there are some considerations with this scope. And remember, especially when you're Benchrest shooting, everything is a compromise. Now, the compromise with this scope is it comes in, when I weighed it, at 1060 grams, which is nearly twice the weight of my Benchrest scope that I'm using at the moment. And sadly, this means I could not fit this scope to either of my rifles and use it in light varmint class. So that is a consideration. But other than that, I cannot see anything that would deter you from buying this scope. I absolutely love it. I'll keep saying that. Anyway, there you go. Well guys, my final thought. Optics Warehouse, thank you for lending me such a beautiful scope. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I put about 1,000 pellets through it over the last week and a half, and it's been any excuse to come out and shoot this scope. I've been talking to all my friends about how great it is, and I think they're a little bored about me singing its praises. But it's a fantastic scope, but there's only one consideration, as I've said before. I cannot put this on my light varmint class rifle because it's just too heavy. If I was to purchase this scope, I would have to run one rifle in HV class and one rifle in LV class. And I've got to think, if I did that, would it be worth running two rifles? That problem is specific to me because I have a cheek piece which adds weight, which a lot of Benchrest shooters don't. And I also have a big silencer on the front, which I use so I can practice at home. So if you're a Benchrest shooter and you're interested in the scope, do your maths. It still might fit in light varmint class. So I'm left in a bit of a kerfuffle. I fell in love at the beginning of this video, and yes, I'm still in love, but this scope is a little too heavy for all of my needs at the moment. Otherwise, it's the best scope I've ever shot with. Now, guys, remember, until next time, you keep living the airgun dream, and take care. Bye bye.